Hi, everybody. My favorite day of the week because I get to interact with you. I'm Lynette Zang, founder and CEO of Zang Enterprises, and welcome to our Tuesday Live. Before we start, I have to show you, and you'll be seeing it on our socials. You see how gorgeous this is? And look at what a beautiful golden color. This is honey that was harvested this morning from our hives up on the roof. And I have to tell you, it is the best honey in the world because it gathers all the nectar from nut trees and everything else, and really very healthy for you because it's got all the pollen and all of that. But let's go to something that is not so healthy for you, but very important for you to be aware of so that you can make educated choices that puts your best interest first. And, a little while ago, we had this issue with CrowdStrike and Microsoft where everything was bam, just cut right off, and it didn't matter how much you wanted to yell or scream. They have not really come to full conclusion on this yet, but now what do we have? National Public Data confirms massive data breach, which included social security numbers, names, addresses, email addresses, and phone numbers. 2.9 billion, that's with a B, folks, records within that data breach. Isn't that interesting? Do you understand how vulnerable you are? Did you even know that NPD existed? And let alone this is a credit agency that puts your information out there? What are you going to do about it? I can tell you after the Experian breach several years ago, I'm going to get into what I personally did, and you, of course, must always do what you're comfortable with, but I want to talk about this because the National Public Data, which aggregates data to provide background checks, has confirmed it suffered a massive data breach involving your social security numbers and other personal data on actually billions of Americans. It is posted on its website. Let's see. The Coral Springs, Florida company posted on its website a notice that there appears to have been a data security incident that may have involved some of your personal information, like all of it. The incident is believed to involve a third-party bad actor, right? Did they ask your permission to do this, by the way? That was trying to hack into data in late December 2023 with potential leaks of certain data in April of 2024 and summer of 2024. December, April, and now. And they're just telling us about it now. 2.9 billion records with a B. Great. So the news about the breach, so we wouldn't have even frankly known about this, but it was a class action lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Courts and was reported by Bloomberg Law. 2.9 billion records, including names, addresses, social security numbers, and relatives dating back at least 3 decades. So when they're asking you that special question, what was your mother's maiden name? Do you think that what was your dog's name? All of that information was hacked. How do you feel about that? Because they can use that information to take out loans and debt on your behalf, unless you do some things, and we'll come back to that. Now, financial institutions use social security numbers on applications for loans and credit cards and on investments. Having that information available to threat actors, they didn't protect it through encryption, and now all of this information was stolen. It was unencrypted personal information. Then the group posted a database that said it had information on those 2.9 billion people on the dark web about April 8th, 2024, seeking to sell it for $3.5 million. We wouldn't have known about this unless there hadn't been a class action lawsuit. We have no idea what's happening in cyberspace. That's where the real battle is. And some people that understand this piece way better than I do have been telling me for about a year or so now that really World War III has already begun, but it's begun in cyberspace. This is not something you can see coming because they keep this hidden from you. And what do we know? Here's the mantra, guys. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. So you want to make sure, if you haven't done this yet, to click that QR code and make sure that you set up a time to meet with one of our strategy specialists and put in place your sound money strategy that is out of this system and invisible. So what I made the choice to do years ago with the Experian breach was I froze my credit, okay? If I need it, I can unfreeze it. But if your credit is frozen at the main, like Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, so the three main credit rating agencies for you guys, or for all of us, then if somebody's trying to take out a loan in your name, they can't do it, even if they have your social security number and all that other information, because your credit reports are frozen. That's the safest way to do it. And I know I triple checked with my daughter to make sure that it was still in place after I saw this breach. And she said yes, and so are theirs. So that, in my personal opinion, is the best way to deal with it, unless you need your credit available at all times. Why would you need it? I believe, don't hold me to this, but I believe it costs nothing to freeze your credit, and then a small, like maybe 25 or 35 bucks to unfreeze it for the moment that you might need it, and then you shut it back down again. And that's from an IMF report a few months ago. Greater digitization and heightened geopolitical tensions imply that the risk of a cyber attack with systemic consequences has risen. Oh, it has? How far has it risen, IMF, International Monetary Fund? Well, you can see this is just going back to 2004 and going up through 2023, and this happened in 2024. So this is the most current data. They just came out with this in what? 8 and 17. You can see how much these are number of cyber incidents. They have risen pretty dramatically, and these are the estimated losses. You may even have a company that checks your credit and what have you and is going to supposedly tell you if there's a breach. Just shut your credit down, freeze it. Do you really need it? If you really need it, that's different. And of course, you do whatever you're comfortable doing, but I can tell you I sleep much better at night knowing that my credit is frozen. And so if a bad actor did indeed get my information, they can't do anything with it anyway because it won't show up on any credit reports. That, in my opinion, is the best way to deal with it. And also to have wealth that is outside of the system. And so what have we been watching? We've been watching the spot gold market rise, and it tops 2,500 for the first time on the outlook for lower rates, because all the markets want is they want the Fed to lower the rates and give out more and more free money. But every time they do that, the value of the currency that's already out there goes down. But let's take a look at this from a bit more of a technical level, because this is the spot gold market. And remember, this is just a contract. And that was the close last Friday. That was the close last Friday. We've talked about all of the breakouts. China coming back into the markets. Will gold go higher? Will the spot gold market go higher? Not that it's not going to go in and fill some gaps and do the normal technical stuff, but it is so far beneath its fundamental value that you just position into it. This is spot gold at a high, but this is not the value of gold at a high. It's just what Wall Street wants you to believe. At the same time that we're watching central banks adopt it and accumulate it at the fastest pace ever. Why? Because they're all getting ready to do more of this. Because this is the only thing that they have. That's it. There's an infinite amount of new money that they can create, an unlimited amount of it. But when you're looking at physical gold and physical silver, there are limitations. So if you want to show your support, please give us a like, leave us a comment, share, and make sure you subscribe. And I would think this would be a pretty important one, at least if you go in and click on those links and share that with all your family and friends. And also the suggestion, you do whatever you're comfortable with. Everybody needs to do that. But the suggestion that you freeze your credit reports unless you need it open. Why leave it open and vulnerable? They don't tell you to do this, but in my personal opinion, this is what should happen. And so now I'm going to go ahead and take some questions. And
this question, Lynette, was from Rick H. I just want to make sure I put that there because I forgot to put the name up there. Sorry. So this is
okay.
From Rick H. Okay.
Okay. Now, according to Adam, this isn't really a question, but I do like to address this. And it's from one of our strategy specialists, clients, or prospects. I'm not really sure which. But anyway, here it is. So it's not really a question, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. I think it's more so focusing on the unknown source. So there was a, did you give me all that information? Adam? Okay. So okay, so I'm not really sure exactly.
Let me kind of chime in. So I'm going to chime in just a little bit here because
chime in. Help
this
me
is
out
the
here for a
context I
second.
was trying to provide
Okay,
to you earlier.
please.
Okay, so the question was about a video, okay, that Rick had watched, and Rick had watched it from Silver Dragons, I believe, which we interviewed.
Oh, yes.
So that's, hey, go check them out. Silver Dragons, great channel. We interviewed with them. Go watch our interview.
Yep.
Shout out to Silver Dragons, making a great video. And the question was, the video was about the amount of silver that is available to us and the amount of silver that they're telling us is available to us. So kind of the question that was shaped out of this, and this was from Riley and Rick, was how much above ground silver is stockpiled in that unknown source that they're not telling us about? And essentially, does that affect the market? And is there truly a shortage, a silver shortage?
So first of all, what everybody really needs to understand is that when there's anything that's physical, there is a finite amount of it. There is no finite amount of this because there's an unlimited amount of debt. But whether you're talking about gold or you're talking about silver, there is a finite amount. I have heard some people, Bixware is one that's talking about all the gold that's in the Grand Canyon. It doesn't matter. The difference between gold and silver is that silver actually gets used up in manufacturing, and there is a finite amount to begin with. Gold is indestructible, but again, there's a finite amount to begin with. Somebody asked me, well, what if they find silver and gold on the moon or on another planet? We're doing all of this. There's still going to be a finite amount of it. It really doesn't matter, especially since in these spot markets, both gold and silver, there's an infinite amount. And it takes just like $150 to control 5,000 ounces of silver and 500 ounces of gold. So the leverage in these markets is huge. Now, the Department of the Interior of the U.S. runs a survey on an annual basis and talks about the amount of above ground gold and above ground silver, and also in ground gold and in ground silver. Silver is more of a byproduct from mining copper, from mining gold. However, it doesn't really matter because in any case, there is a finite amount. And since the spot markets, of which there's an infinite amount, are used to control the visible price that we see, we're comparing really apples and oranges. Give me the physical, give it to me in any form at all. I don't really care. I don't care what form it's in. There's still a finite amount. So just because someone may be lying to us about the above ground amount that's there, of course they're lying to us. That's their job, for goodness sake, of course. But it still doesn't really matter because there is a finite amount. And at some point in the future, that will come out. It very well could be, if we have enough entities that are buying these, that are buying the futures contracts. Right now, mostly they're traded, right? It's just a little bit of pickup in money between what they buy it for and what they liquidate it for, and that's their profit. But if enough of them stood up and said, okay, bring me delivery. I want to take delivery of those 5,000 ounces of silver and those 500 ounces of gold. And when enough entities do that, well, then it becomes apparent that this is just another shell game, right? Don't go with the shell game. You go with the physical markets. You hold it, you own it. If I did not answer this properly, or you have further questions about this, then you let me know and we will address it. But frankly, I hope there's more out there because silver is getting used up in manufacturing. So no matter how much more there might be out there, it's going down. That number is going down. With gold, even though it is indestructible, all the gold that's ever been mined fits into one Olympic-sized swimming pool. A swimming pool, people. So again, finite amount of it. And even if there is more on the moon, even if there's a whole bunch in the Grand Canyon, doesn't matter. It's in the Grand Canyon. It's on the moon. We have it physically in our possession. That's the way I like it.
Just for me, right? I
Yes,
just want to ask.
go ahead. Yep.
Are you thinking that they could be lying about the supply of silver? They could just be lying.
Of course they could
right?
be.
They could just be straight
I mean,
up
that's their
lying.
job, honestly.
Right. And then kind of the follow-up to that would be like, let's just say...
Well, they are lying because by creating those contracts where it just, there's not enough silver there
Right.
for all of the contracts that are out there.
Right.
That is a lie. Of course, it's Wall Street. They're lying. That's their job.
Absolutely. Okay, I get that. And then let's just say that there was a point where the low supply, right, and of silver, and there was a very high demand for it. That would likely shoot up the price of silver. I mean, does it always work like that, or can you give me some insight into that?
Yeah, it doesn't always work like that because if you look at how much silver, JP Morgan, for example, is sitting on the physical versus the contracts, right? They use the contracts to control the price and what you see. And I just did a video, which I think is coming out, I don't know, maybe Saturday, the one on Ethiopia, okay, where they just did the overnight revaluation, kind of thing. And what did they say? It's when there's ultimately, there will be a black market on this when that pressure that you're talking about, the demand, far exceeds the supply. So in the black market, you'll see the pricing in terms of whatever the currency is. You'll see that go up. Yeah. When they do those overnight revaluations, that's when both gold and silver will begin to move more toward the black market prices and begin to move toward their fundamental value. The first overnight revaluation won't take it there, but that is part of the strategy on fixed rate debt. So there are definitely reasons that you're going to take advantage of that overnight revaluation.
Right.
But if you really think that this 1 ounce of silver is worth $30 right now, yay, you can buy it for somewhere in that vicinity. but it's worth a whole lot more in terms of these dollars because of how many of these, this unlimited amount versus a limited supply, even if it's higher than what we think.
Got it. That actually makes a lot of sense to me. And if Chad, if you have any follow-ups on that, make sure to ask them in the comments, and I will try to get them answered for you. The next question for you, Lynette, is actually from a recent video. It's a comment from a recent video.
Yes.
I wanted you to see it,
Yes.
and then I want you to address it, of course. And
Yes.
also to our viewers listening, make sure you comment on our videos because we're going to start pulling some of those comments and answering them here on the lives every Tuesday. That way you can get a live answer and maybe follow up with Lynette if that's something that you need. So
Right.
There is the question.
Yes. Okay. So this is from a recent video, and I wanted to answer this, right? Because it was brought to me, and we do not shy away from answering any question. And so here we go. It's not really a question, it's a comment, but I wanted to address it. This is from user at BrexitBoxTV. You sell pre-1933 coins and scare people into buying from you. That's how you make such high profits. Gold and silver of any age is non-traceable, and as long as you tell no one you have such assets, then your government cannot do a thing about. Get gold and silver as cheap as you can, and don't use dealers such as this one who scares people into paying well over the odds. This is now turning into a vulture's market who will rip you off. Don't call them if you have a brain. First of all, I'm really glad that you brought that up. So let's go back up because he said several things in here and I want to address each one of them. Number one, my personal goal is and has been for a very long time because I've been groomed for this moment in time to translate financial noise into understandable language. If that translation scares you into protecting yourself, I'm trying to help you make educated choices, putting your best interest first. Keeping your wealth, I don't think there's anything in there, but keeping your wealth in this kind of stuff or things that you can only convert into this kind of stuff guarantees that you will lose. Just go to the Federal Reserve Education Department website, put purchasing power of the consumer dollar in the search bar and see it for yourself. Now, let's see. Gold and silver of any age is non-traceable. True. If you physically hold it, you physically own it. And it is private. It is decentralized. And even though I'm looking at it, so it's not invisible to me, it is invisible to everybody else. So that's an absolute fact. We are not legally obligated to report any part of the buy side. So we don't. We do everything absolutely to the legal letter of the law because we want to be around to help you through this whole thing. So you have to make the choices that feel the most right to you. Let's see. And I don't know how I would scare people into buying from me. I mean, you can buy gold and silver from whoever you want to. And I'm talking to people all around the world, and I certainly can't sell to people all around the world yet. Stay tuned. We're just starting off. But how many times do I tell you and wear the jewelry? Because gold and silver in any form is monetary at its base. So there's all different ways for you to accumulate. And, you can see from me that it is certainly the way that I accumulate, a number of different ways. And I encourage everybody anywhere in the world to do that. So, it might be nice. And the truth of the matter is not everybody is right for us. There's plenty of gold and silver dealers out there. You have to find the one that you believe is going to help you get from where you are to where you want to be. I can tell you that is our goal. And it isn't just about the gold and silver. It's also about the food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. These are all of the things that we need because what we are going through is a currency life cycle transition. And you need to be as independent and self-sufficient as possible as we go through these transitions. Because you can just look out in the world and see the suffering and see the starvation and see that when we go through these transitions, most of the population, on average it's 80%. Some places are more, some places are less. But 80% of the population ends up in abject poverty. And all the studies show, if you're poor and you don't have anything, let's face it, there's only so far down that you can go. If you're wealthy and you have the hard, tangible assets, well, guess what? You're in a position to have a better standard of living on the other side of it. It's that middle class that trusts the system that is really about robbing you. Inflation was baked into the currency and into the system. And they're the ones that have the greatest shift in standard of living. And we're watching that in real time in the US, everywhere around the world. So gold and silver will protect you. Now, when we're talking about this versus here's my piece of bullion, right? Actually, if you're doing this and this, these are essentially the same thing. This is pre-33, and the date on this is 1904. And this is 1924 because I bought this year for you guys, frankly. Basically, these are the equivalent. And so you're right. If you hold it, he's absolutely right. If you hold it and you don't reveal anything, the government cannot do a thing about it. I mean, what they'll do is they will try and entice you into participating. Most of this is held in IRAs, so you don't hold it anyway. And I'm pretty darn sure that the administrator in the vault is not going to go, if the government says we're confiscating the gold, they're not going to go, oh, no, we're going to protect your gold. No, they're not. They're going to hand it over. But they do not want you to argue. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but here's my bet. First of all, this new eagle has a $50 face value. Because the official U.S. price of gold is $42.22, which is what they revalued it to from $35 in 1971. So that's, if you look on, again, the Fred is a great resource. If you look there at monetary gold, you're going to see it hasn't changed since, 1956 or something like that. You can't hold that date to me. But they have all of their monetary gold held at $42.22, which is why this has a $50 face value. There are some that think that they would confiscate it for $50. But I'm not one of those, because if they did that and you just paid $2,500 or $3,000 or whatever you're going to pay for this 1 ounce of bullion, they'd get way too much pushback. So since they know that they're going to be doing an overnight devaluation, I think what's more likely to happen, let's say spot's at $3,000 when they decide to do a confiscation. They'll say, okay, we're going to take your gold because, hey, you've got it. This is the best thing for the country and the world, and whatever spin they want to put on it. But because we're so awesome, we're going to pay you $4,000. Well, in reality, 1 ounce of gold right now is worth somewhere north of $40,000 in terms of fundamental value. So big flippin' deal. It doesn't mean anything. But most people somehow believe Wall Street. I don't know why they do. I work there. I don't believe them. I know the lies. And most people would say, well, gee, it's only worth $3,000 and they're willing to pay me $4,000. Okay, they do a big sweep and nobody complains and nobody argues about it. That's what it's more likely to look like. There are people out there, just to go back to that question and kind of expound on it, because he sounds like he doesn't think they would ever confiscate gold again. Frankly, that's hopium. That's not history. I go by history, and I am working on a video to show you all of the laws that are on the books pertaining to gold and their ability to confiscate, because governments can take anything from you, and you are not immune. So what does he say? Well, I just won't tell anybody and then it'll be invisible. But that also means that the only place that you can use it is in the black market. And the black market is not going to give you fundamental value because there is risk there. So you can do that and it will be invisible. And there's some gold, like the American Eagles, though all good citizens always pay all taxes that are due. But there is some gold that upon the sale of it, when you sell it at certain levels, it's reportable. Not all. American Eagles, quite frankly, are not reportable upon the sale of it. But again, all good citizens always pay all taxes that are due. It's just that you get to decide how you want to deal with it. We, at this point anyway, are not forced to do that for you. Let's see, gold and silver, cheap as you can. You know, I got to tell you, in my lifetime, I have frequently found that you get what you pay for, right? And let's just say I have a leak in my gardens, right? PVC is really a lot cheaper than copper, but if you're a plumber out there, and you're gonna do it in your own gardens or your own house, do you want PVC or do you want copper? Well, copper costs you more money, but copper also lasts a lot longer. And I could give you tons and tons and food, for goodness sakes. They make you cheap, disgusting food. And you eat it and it does not support your brain and it does not support your body. You get good, organic, free range, all of that kind of stuff. Yes, it costs you more, but it's better for your body. So I do believe in this case, you also get what you pay for. There's a whole strategy behind this, and it's based upon history. Personally, I want the kind of gold that if they do a confiscation, I can still use it in the normal marketplace. Thank you, Uncle Al, because that's what he showed me back in 1964 when he took us in a back bedroom, my parents and I, and opened up these 2 tall floor safes. And he had thousands. He had at least 3,000, 3 monster boxes, I would say, in each one of those vaults. It was illegal at that time to hold more than 5 ounces of gold. You're going to have to forgive me, but I was there in 1971. That wasn't that long ago. I was born in 54, right? So I was born into a world that we weren't using gold as money, but it was still at least quasi backing the currency. And when he showed me that, I was 10 years old. I didn't really understand what I was looking at then, but it was fate. It was fate that he did that. So I like to look at things and say, what if I'm right and what if I'm wrong? Because if I'm going to be wrong, I'd rather not do it, right? I want to do what I'm going to be right at. Or how about, doesn't matter. I could be right, I could be wrong. Maybe they'll confiscate overtly because they're already confiscating through inflation and money printing and financial repression. And oh my God, there's so many ways that they're confiscating. They just don't call it a confiscation. It's hard for me to think that they would stop at the last minute and go, yeah, we've lied to you and robbed from you your entire life, but we're going to stop right now. Yeah, I don't think that's likely. So for me, with sound money, with real gold, I want the constitutional money. It's what I want. It's where I feel the most comfortable. And since I am quite clear on the true fundamental value of gold and the fact that the only tool that they have is hyperinflation, and I've done so many studies on what happens to gold and silver during hyperinflation, that I want the kind of gold that does not matter whether they do an over confiscation or they do not. And because I can buy this so darn far below its true fundamental value, I consider the difference wealth insurance. Maybe you don't. Everybody has to do what they are comfortable doing. And it's hard for me, in fact, it's impossible for me to tell you to do something that I am not doing myself. I lead by example. Anybody out there that has been to my farm knows that because they've seen it. Maybe you've seen the videos from it. Food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. These are all the things that I work on to make sure that I can make this transition for myself, my family, for you guys as easy as possible, because absolutely everybody is going to be impacted by that. Did I answer everything in there on that question? Okay? And don't shy away from asking me those things. Please, I want you to. Give me an opportunity to address it. If you have a different opinion after you do your due diligence, I can't tell you that your opinion is less valuable than mine. But mine I consider to be a very educated opinion because of where I live my life and where I have lived my life my entire life. So yes, I have a very high level of comfort with this because I know what dynastic wealth is and I know what confiscation is. I was there, right? I was there. I wasn't there in 33 when they took it away, but I was certainly there since 54. And I certainly remember I know how they make these transitions happen. None of this is in your best interest. And when you look at the ultra rarities, so these are coins where like one of these will go for 15 million bucks. Well, who can afford that? I'm thinking the 1%ers, those guys that write the laws or can influence those that write the laws. That's my category. That's where I want to be. You can make that choice for yourself. I can't tell you. But I know that I have a couple of ounces or 1 ounce of bullion. And I have, my bracelet, that's also bullion, and that's it. So, it's just like people say, well, you just sell gold and silver, and the stock market's making new highs, and Bitcoin, and blah, blah, blah. You got to do what you're comfortable doing. That is not what I'm comfortable with right now, because I am 100% clear that we are transitioning from this debt-based system into a full surveillance system. What are you going to do if you need to convert your bullion into the new currency and the new currency, and the bullion has been overtly confiscated? How are you going to convert it? With this, that's just not an issue for me. And there's all different ways. In fact, we did a video this morning that it's going to be a minute to come out because I really want you to see how they do these transitions. So I want to make sure that Adam and Arthur have enough time to really make it as good as possible. But would we spend like 3 hours this morning or something like that?
Yeah, it's 3 hours, yeah.
Okay, we spent a lot of time filming it, and I'm giving them a lot of time to edit it, because I want this crystal clear on how they make these transitions. And I'm showing you. So, okay. And by the way, was it Brexit Box TV? Yes. Okay. If I didn't address that, and even if you want to come on air and have a conversation about it, we can do that. We can absolutely do that. So Beverly Michael asks, will this give them the excuse and also people will want the digital dollar and to give us new account numbers for our safety? All of this leads up to pushing us for our safety and for convenience, right? I don't know that this gives them an excuse, but it should be a heed this warning, because we keep getting all of these warnings about what is going to happen. And so, a crisis happens and then things kind of calm down and they stop talking about it. And so we think that things are kind of more back to normal. There is no normal. There has been no normal for a very, very long time because the system died in 2008. But yeah, they'll give you all these new account numbers, all of this digital ID, all of that. Well, just freeze your credit. If you need it, you unfreeze it for a minute, you use it, and then you freeze it again. Why leave yourself vulnerable? But yeah, they'll do all sorts of things for your safety, right? Freedom is not free. I got news for you. You got to take some responsibility for that.
They're really just being kind, looking out for you.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
There's this bridge in Brooklyn. Can we talk about that?
Oh, hey, and quick shout out to my dad, who is in the chat today.
Oh, hi, Dad.
Hello, David.
I have to meet you, David.
Yeah.
You haven't even been here yet.
And he says, love the show.
Thank you.
A lot of knowledge in these uncertain times. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, I expect to see you at the farm. You need to come in
That's
and
right.
see what
Shout
your
out
son
to
is
you, Pops.
doing.
Shout out to you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you.
Love it. And if I butcher this, please forgive me. Hyozan Hadis 09. I bought my first 2 pieces of silver last week. Yay! Good job. Thank you so much. And by the way, it is not that I really want to be, inundated, but you know what the minimum is at Zang Enterprises, because we believe so strongly that everybody needs to own some gold and silver physical? 1 ounce. That's our minimum. Okay? And believe me, it takes a whole lot more work. And by the way, you were talking about, the fees and all of this. This costs us money. But that's how strongly we believe that everybody needs to own it. Everybody. Okay, Kathy Weaver asks, if you don't use credit cards, is this relevant? Yeah, it is relevant, because if they have all of your information, even though you're not using the credit cards, they can go to the bank and take out debt. They can go to the mall and take out a credit card at wherever, Macy's or wherever, any of those department stores, and you wouldn't even know about it until suddenly and magically you end up getting these default notices. So yeah, even if you don't use credit cards, this is very, very relevant. And you got to protect yourself. And I don't think it costs anything to freeze it. I mean, that could be different than when I did it. I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't hold me to it. But TransUnion, Experian, and what's the other one? Equifax. Okay, those are the 3.
And she did say this earlier, but I do want to make sure everyone knows I will be providing those links in the bottom. Okay, in the description right after the live is ended. Okay, so anyone looking for those links, I will go ahead and provide those for you then. All right.
Yep. And I would like to make one more comment, and that is, and anybody that's been working with me for a million years that I've been in this business, what I always try and do is bring value. And at Zang Enterprises, everybody has that same mindset. The same mindset. We all want to bring value to the table. It's a community.
And yeah, do you mind explaining just real quick, kind of like what the freezing of the credit is, or what is that? Tell me what that is. Can you tell what that is?
All the freezing of the credit is that nobody can access your credit reports, and therefore they cannot take out debt in your name.
Got it.
And it's free. It is free. You looked?
Yeah, and to unlock it is free as well.
Oh, and to unlock it is free as well. So there you go. What are you risking? It's not even costing you anything but a little bit of time. We will provide those links to make sure that you can get yourself protected.
Absolutely. Look at those.
So we do that there, and we provide this so you can get protected as well. And Wolf asks, I believe a couple of years ago, one of those credit reporting, yes, it was, and it was Experian. Oh, I didn't finish reading that. One of those credit reporting services was hacked. Yes, and it was Experian, who's been hacked, don't hold me to this, but I think at least 3 times. I think that I froze my credit after it happened in 2017, and then it happened again in 2022. And one of those times, and then it happened before that. So yeah, with more and more things being digital, with more and more information and life that we live in cyberspace, this is more and more dangerous, and they don't reveal when they get hacked. They don't reveal that, right? So you can be vulnerable and not even know that your information has been hacked. That's why you take that, it's not even an extreme measure. I mean, double check with how long it takes to unfreeze your credit, so that if you're going to go out and buy a car and you have to do that on credit, or a house and you have to do that on credit, that you know the timing of it. Because I think, don't hold me to this, but I think that credit freeze happens almost immediately, and then the unfreezing, I think, might take... Here. Thank you, Arthur. Okay, if you make the request online or by phone, the 3 major credit bureaus are required to lift the freeze within an hour. Awesome. If you send your request to thaw your report by mail, we recommend you allow up to 3 days. Okay, so it's just the best protection is just to freeze your credit. Unfreeze it when you need it, and then freeze it again. And then you don't have to worry about these hacks and the ability of bad actors to take out debt in your name and steal your identity. That's the other thing. There's an awful lot of identity theft going on. If you close down that, it's just a whole lot safer. They should talk about that more.
And I think the crazy part is that, and me and Neo were actually talking about that in the comments, is how they waited so long to actually tell us. This happened like 4 months ago, guys. A little late on the notice, huh?
Right. And they wouldn't have told us at all except for that lawsuit.
Exactly. Correct.
We wouldn't have even known that. That's why it's just safer. Freeze your credit. Then when this happens, it doesn't impact you. I mean, it is kind of that simple, right? Okay, MJ, question for Lynette. Regarding silver, do you think it matters whether it's sovereigns or generic rounds? No, not really. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters here, if it's in flatware form, right? It's monetary at its base. There will be a little bit of a premium for the sovereign coins versus the rounds, but I don't think it matters. I own all of it.
Can I piggyback off of that real quick?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so regarding silver, what is your feelings on silver bullion versus the is it constitutional?
The collectible? Well, really, this is the constitutional silver, so it was minted prior to 64. Right. And of course, in the Constitution, only gold and silver is money. It's more recognizable, right? Sure. So it's more recognizable, right. But quite honestly, we have a video coming out on how you tell, is this real silver, is this real gold, is it fake, or is it... So have a little patience. We filmed that, a couple of weeks ago, so they're working on that. Again, that's one that's super important to be really good. Do you know when that's coming out?
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to launch that one next week.
Next week?
Yeah,
okay.
It should be next week, Wednesday, so look for that next week, Wednesday. And it's going to be a series, so come back every single Wednesday to see all 4 parts of the series, guys.
Awesome. So for me, I own new stuff. I own the junk silver. I mean, I do like the smaller sizes, really, because it's easier to put 2 dimes together than to break a quarter in half. But, I mean, I've been accumulating this stuff for like ever. Doesn't matter if it's broken, bent.
This might be a silly question, but it is in regards to the confiscation. So you're not worried about them taking your silver, right?
No, I'm not, because it gets used up.
Got
right?
it. And I was kind of going to go back to like that previous question that we were talking about from Riley's client. Right? So let's just say there is a shortage of silver, right? And the demand is skyrocketing up. At that point, would you be a little bit more scared that the government is going to come in and kind of change their decision on that? I'm just asking, history doesn't show
that's
that,
good. Well, actually, silver was confiscated when gold was confiscated back in 33.
I missed that. Okay.
Right. The difference is its broad-based use in manufacturing, in like the solar, and especially in the alternative energy space,
Solar's huge.
which is what, and it's not just solar. It's used in lots of things, in space travel, everything. And much as they've tried, they have not been able to, in a lab, duplicate the exact properties of silver or gold. So. They could. I'm just not as concerned about it because it's so broadly used and it gets used up in manufacturing.
That makes sense. Thanks for answering that.
Right. And Trav asks, and if I butcher any names, please forgive me, because I really appreciate you being. I want to just take a second and tell you, I so appreciate you being here. The lives are like the most important to me. They're the ones that I have the most fun with because I feel like we're sitting in a living room having a conversation. And just wait, because in our new office, we have an amphitheater. And we're going to be doing not just the lives like this, but if you're anywhere in Phoenix and it's a Tuesday afternoon at noon, you can come and participate in the live audience. We're not ready yet. So that's just a little teaser, but it's kind of what sold us for sure on this location. It was definitely, we loved that amphitheater. Seats 150 up to 180 people, I think. Okay, so Trav asks, I understand the importance of slab pre-33, but what if they are not slabbed graded? Is that drastically important? And how does it affect value in terms of physical only and evaluation? Well, now there are some people that think that it does matter, but if you go back and you read the confiscation laws, it says that any coin minted prior to 33 is classified as rare and unusual. So you always see me holding this up, right? This is 1904, and it's just a raw coin. Again, I go back to its functionality, right? For me, this is about if you have like a chronic illness, or there's something specific. Like I kind of like, the smaller ones and the foreign gold coins for like property taxes, etc. So I do believe that any coin minted prior to 33, since that's what it says, is classified as rare and unusual because they can't go back and create them again. And the other part of that is we don't know exactly how many were melted down during that confiscation, but most of them. So it is, for me, it's about function. What am I trying to accomplish? Because this is going to essentially run, at least at this point, with bullion. So it'll be closest to spot of any of them. But I'm not counting on this as a legacy. Here's where my hesitation is. Honestly, if I've needed to hang a picture and I've had my shoes on, I have used the heel of my shoe to put a hammer in the wall. And it works. It definitely works. I've done it. But when I have a hammer, it's more accurate, it's faster, and it's better. So it's just the right tool for the job. So for us and the strategy, that's why we spend so much time getting to know our clients and making sure that you have defined your goals. What are you trying to accomplish? Once we're clear on what you're trying to accomplish, then it's the right tool for the job. That's all. It's the right tool for the job. So can you do it all with a raw coin? Yeah, you can. You can. But it's going to, and also the different levels of slabbing, like this coin, we just checked this morning, for the video on how they make the transitions. So don't hold me to this because I really don't work in this area anymore. But this happens to be just a common date, a 1904 mint state 64, and I think it was going for somewhere in the vicinity of $3,000, something like that. And then I had a mint state 62, wasn't that in 1874? So even though there are more blemishes, because a 64 will have more blemishes than a 62, that coin was somewhere north of $7,000 at the moment. So you can see the difference. And the way these coins behave as we go through this trend cycle, it's not just, oh, this is so much more expensive than this coin. It is in relation to spot. This coin typically moves less than that more rare coin. So again, I go back to the function. What are you trying to accomplish? And then whatever it is that you choose should support those goals. What most people do is they buy gold or silver and they don't really know what they're trying to accomplish other than, which is not horrible, getting out of the way of the hyperinflation and protecting themselves. So anywhere in the world, because I do get this a lot from people that live in other countries, like we got the question on from, wasn't it in Africa that, Adam, didn't somebody ask in Africa, and would I tweak the strategy?
That is correct. For the,
Okay.
BRICS nation, right? Is that what the
Right,
BRICS,
for the
yeah,
BRICS
correct,
nations.
correct.
And I got to tell you, so I'm glad that I brought this up because that was actually supposed to come up first, that no, I wouldn't change the strategy because having thought about it, like Ethiopia buying the gold from the domestic miners in their currency is a form of confiscation. And they're not the only ones. Nigeria, I mean, a lot of countries, a lot of governments, a lot of central banks will force the miners to sell them part of their gold in the local currency. That is a form of confiscation, so I think you do need to be more protected than that, quite honestly. You know, I mean, yeah. And, okay.
And I just want to say real quickly, I believe that question was from Dana. Okay, that was the question from Dana, and that they were breaking down that was the BRICS nation question. And you were saying, just to kind of clarify, you were saying that you wouldn't, after thinking about it further, you probably wouldn't change much to your strategy.
I wouldn't because what I'm seeing in the BRICS nation is a tendency to confiscate, right? And I want a collectible that is not as likely to be confiscated because the guys that write the laws, they write it for their protection. Just like Treasury Secretary Wooden. He knew what they were doing to the currency. He wanted to protect himself and his cronies. And so he wrote that in. That's why that goes back to, you know, this one. Yeah, this is classified as rare and collectible. So, but again, it depends on what the function is. Melissa Mayer, hi Melissa, says, Lynette, hypothetically, if gold went to its fundamental value and most people wanted to turn it in to take their profit, how could dealers afford that, survive that, and what value could we actually get? Number one, I can guarantee you, Melissa, at that point, everybody is quite aware of how rapidly that currency is losing value. So you're not going to capture your profit with that. What you're going to do is you're going to convert it into the money, whatever the currency is at the time, and then convert it into an undervalued asset. Maybe that's income producing, maybe not. But you're not going to want to sit and hold on to this, or what you end up with is a $10 trillion note that you can't even buy an egg with, right? So that's number one, but let me have that question back, please, darling. Okay, so it will go to its fundamental value. That's not really a hypothetical because that's what happens every time. Is this time different? I don't think so. And we're watching it around the world. Most people want it as, so they're not going to do it to turn it into the currency. They're going to do it to turn it into the currency, to turn it into another undervalued, maybe income producing asset or dynastic wealth asset or something like that. How could dealers afford that, survive that? Understand that there is always, always, always the wealthy in any system, because wealth never disappears. It just shifts location. So if and when these coins, whether they're, in any form, when they go up in price, which is historically, you see that to the currency, we're selling, like I have wholesalers, and there are auctions. There are so many avenues to liquidate this through. And history shows us that the people up at the top of the food chain want what nobody else can have, and they have the wealth to do it. Think about Seabiscuit back during the Depression. The prize was $100,000, which is probably something like $10 or $20 million today. How many people had $100,000 during the Depression? Not many, but there were some. And when I sit here and I say, on average, 80% of the population ends up in abject poverty. In Venezuela, that's 90%. But I didn't say 100%, did I? So there's that 10% or that 20% that has moved into sound money, holds its purchasing power, and puts everybody, whoever holds this, in a position to convert into the then undervalued assets. I've studied currency life cycles since '87. This happens there's over 4,800 of them. It happens every time. Is it going to be different this time? Maybe. But am I betting that? No, I'm not. I'm betting a repetition of history, because it's happened 100% of the time.
Can I piggyback off that
Yes,
real quickly?
please.
So something I had, and I just wrote this down because I was like, whoa, okay. Was there ever a point in history where you couldn't get rid of your gold?
No.
Right? There was no one buying
Never.
gold.
6,000 years. There was never, ever, ever a point in history where you could not liquidate your gold, or your silver for that matter. And, go back to that, because Melissa asked that last question. What value could we actually get? You will most likely get a minimum on this of its fundamental value, and a multiple many times. In fact, I just did that video taking this level of coin, which is not super rare. They're more common. And that just came out. What did we call that? It was on the PCGS 3000. It just came out last Thursday.
How high will gold go?
How high will gold go? Maybe you can just stick the link in there. And so that should give you a better idea of what is more likely, Melissa. Okay. And Petrichor Ranch asked, I really enjoyed your 2-part interview with Yankee. Thank you so much. 2 of my favorites, talking sense, good watch. Thank you so much. I love Yankee. He's just great, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
Sorry, I ran into a little glitch here. YouTube was being, and they saw it too, YouTube was being really weird. It was kind of shutting in and out. So I have a couple more questions here for you.
Okay.
But I wasn't able to get them over for whatever reason. I apologize. I'll pull those up right now, starting with on the pre-33s, and this is from Blake. Blake, thanks for being here. Appreciate you asking. On the pre-33s, is it important to buy them graded, or does it even matter?
Well, I got to go back to, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? So, I mean, this is my, not that one. This is my emergency money. This is my savings account, okay? This is my investment account. So for this, if I had to liquidate this in order to pay salaries or something or other, this goes first, right? This is the least important to me. And so it just always depends. You always have to put your goals first. What am I trying to accomplish? And then you support those goals with the choices that you make.
Patrick Lopez, I'm sorry I missed this question earlier, boss. I'll get to you right now, okay? So can you go into details about the time period after the reset where you can use gold to pay off debt, such as mortgages, and the steps you would take to do that?
And actually, I can do a video on that. And, I am, because I have up, I just haven't quite finished it yet, how gold behaves in inflation, hyperinflation, and deflation. So stay tuned. I'm working on it.
Yeah, Patrick, we'll get you a whole video with really in depth on that, because it is a complicated topic to kind of just shout out an answer. But
I can shout out an answer on it.
But I do want to, if you don't mind, because you did kind of touch on this a little bit ago. You talked about that the revaluation, what you were going to be able to get, and you being able to kind of liquidate your gold. Can you give us just a quick overview of like what you would do with your debt at that point and how you're like the steps?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, variable rate debt and hyperinflation will kill you. You will never get out of debt because the interest rates move so rapidly. If you have fixed rate debt, though, they can't do it as quickly. I can't tell you when they do those overnight revaluations, I can't tell you how long that will last. I can tell you that typically about 9 months-ish until the price of gold also resets, because when they reset, everything resets, and then gold starts to go up again pretty quickly where the others kind of stay flat. So for me, because I don't want to play a game, right? The goal, again, you put your goals first. The goal is to get that fixed rate debt paid off. Boom. So as soon as they do that overnight revaluation, I'm liquidating enough of however I need to pay that mortgage off, to pay that fixed rate student debt off, or that auto loan, any fixed rate debt. Why wait, right? Why wait? It kind of stays steady for a while, for a little while anyway, but especially with things so digitized now, things could happen faster than they've happened before. I'm just kind of paying attention to the currencies right now that are being revalued overnight, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to wait, because I'm going to be paying those back, those fixed rate debts back, with dollars that have virtually no value. And this is true all over the world. So why push it? It's not that important to push.
I got another question there for you.
Oh, and Angela Barnes asks, how would we know what the black market price is? Actually, as the black market comes into play, it actually is published. So you will know what the black market is. Like I've watched in Venezuela, because I've been watching that since 2006. You had the official price, which was way down here, but then you could find the black market price. So with all of your access to the internet, you'll be able to know it. And I'll track it for you, and we'll be talking about it, because, I mean, God forbid anything should happen to me, right? But my intention is to, well, I'm probably never, ever going to retire. We're working on future-proofing it, but we plan, let me just say, it's not just me. I have a community around me, and we plan on being here forever, long after, because you're always going to need us, aren't you? So we're going to help you. And YO asks, hi, Lynette, how much of what percentage do you charge as a commission if I buy gold from your company? Thank you for all you do. Since it varies, click that Calendly link, talk to a strategy specialist. We reveal everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. And keep in mind too, you might not necessarily like what you hear, but we're going to earn it. This is just one way that we earn it, but wait until our new mantra channel opens up, right? We're going to help you wherever you're at, wherever you want to go, in all of those categories: food, water, energy security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. We're going to meet you where you are and help you get to where you want to go. So the point is that no matter who you buy from, you're going to be paying the fees. we're going to be open and honest and reveal everything to you. And not only that, we're going to more than earn it because you deserve it and because we work for you. That's who we work for.
Absolutely. Sam asks, and I think this is a great question, Lynette, how do you respond to Dave Ramsey, who criticizes investment in precious metals, as well as the idea that the dollar in our economy will go belly up, and who loves the stock market?
I would honestly say that if people have not done their research the way I have done my research, I do not value his opinion because that's all it is. It has no historic precedence, just short-term manipulation. And what happens? Ask Dave. See if he'll go on and have a conversation, right? But, reality is what happens when the dollar gets to zero. It's very close to that right now. What happens when the public loses confidence? It's the only thing that's holding this together. So I don't think he knows what he's talking about. That's what I think. And Universal IOM, during a confiscation, can you make your coins into jewelry so it can't be taken? Yes, you can. You can, that is another form. That's why you see me wearing jewelry, is because gold and silver in any form is monetary at its pace, and the premiums on this kind of stuff is so much higher than this, right? Which is higher than this. So it's all relevant, but yeah, absolutely. You certainly could. You could take your bullion, if that's what you wanted to do, melt it down, and turn it into jewelry. But you might as well just buy it that way, or unless it's a great hobby, right? And, why not just buy broken jewelry stuff or this kind of stuff? Yeah. And Tacticus 1979 asks, how do you calculate gold's fundamental value? I love that question. Okay, so here you have government fiat money, and here you have constitutional money. They're both money, they're the same coin, just the opposite side. Well, how is this stuff created? Or where are my dollars? Okay. How is this stuff created? It's created from debt, right? So you just take all the debt that's been created. You can do a country to country, but this is a global issue, so my personal preference is to just take all of the debt that has ever been created in the world, and that is a proxy for how much of this stuff they've created. Unlimited amount, finite amount. You just divide the debt by all the gold that exists. You can do in-ground gold, you can do above-ground gold, and that gives you a number. So it's somewhere north of $40,000, and that's how you do it. Now, I'm not going to ever get you to the penny, but I'm going to get you pretty close. That also, what we don't know, and we will not know, because that's on a one-to-one basis, right? That 40,000 plus is on a one-to-one basis. What we don't know is, number one, how much more they're going to print, so how much higher that number is going to go, and then what is that cover ratio, right? It could be 2 to 1, it could be 1,000 to 1. We don't know what that is yet. So that's why when they do that first overnight revaluation, it's not there. It's on its way, right? But going back to the debt question, I'm not going to wait around until they tell me, until it goes fully to its fundamental value, because the function of your, of the lower quality this is to get that mortgage paid off with dollars that have no value. And the calculation is based upon how much you would need now, even on a one-to-one basis, but then we are being very, very conservative with it. And by the time it happens, what might have taken you this might only take you this. I don't know. But stay tuned, because we'll be doing it together.
And Myron, if I missed your question earlier, I apologize about that, but this is from Myron MV. What is Connor Silver? Does that Okay. Maybe I missed something, but this is what I copied over. So ask it again, and I'll try to get that answered for you. I promise.
Unless you were meaning constitutional silver.
Maybe that's what it was. Constitutional silver.
I think that's what.
Okay.
These are the pre-33s. I mean, in the Constitution, it says only gold and silver is money, right? So it's pre-64, 90% silver, dimes, quarters, half dollars, and dollars. Nickels, unless it's from the World War II, nickels are not silver. They're nickel. So, because a lot of people will think that nickels are silver, but no, I mean, there's a reason it's called nickel, because it's made out of nickel. During the war, nickel was more important to the manufacturing of planes, so they actually used silver for a minute, partially silver. So there are some silver nickels, but. And Jules F. asks, Lynette, were Social Security numbers only leaked in the U.S. because here in Canada we have social insurance numbers. Were they affected along with other people's numbers from other countries? I'm thinking so, but not sure. And it didn't mention that in
it didn't
any
say that.
other. So
I saw billions of records, and I saw billions
2.9
billion records.
Social Security numbers,
Social Security numbers,
but
address,
but
right.
the reality is even if whether it did or whether it didn't, I wouldn't feel very comfortable leaving all of my credit data out there anywhere in the world for anybody to steal. So if there's a way to freeze it and protect yourself, do it. Doesn't hurt, right? If it's free on the way in and it's free on the way out, what's it cost you? A few minutes of your time. That's all. So I think this might have been U.S. based, but if you think that it only happens here in the U.S., you might want to think about that again. And Connor McCarthy says, Lynette, thank you. I know pre-1933 gold is an instrumental part of our strategy for confiscation protection and growth. There's a little bit more to it, but yes, definitely that. But is the same true for silver? Are Morgan dollars safer than silver eagles? I'm not as concerned about confiscation on silver, so I own all of it. Like this is a new Canadian maple leaf, okay? But I have silver eagles. You know, this is a well, that's actually not. Okay, this is a pre-64 half dollar. And again, I go back to my junk silver. I don't think it matters with silver because it gets used up. And so it's the secondary monetary metal. I think it matters with gold because that is the primary currency metal against which they convert this garbage. All right? That's how they reset it, is this stuff that has no intrinsic value is used in one place against this stuff, which is all intrinsic value, used every place.
Last question.
Okay. Ukbay Nguyen asks, Lynette, do you think the market could ever revert to the mean and price discovery, and what would it take? Yeah, ultimately, it will, right? First, all the garbage has to be burned off. So they can't do that yet until they're really ready to take us in or make it. It's about things being like really obvious. So yeah, I mean the markets right now, whether it's stocks or it's bonds or it's real estate or it's anything that's really truly denominated only in this, is severely overvalued. And it's overvalued to the true trend cycle. They push the markets up because that's what people look at. They know people aren't looking at their purchasing power. They certainly know that they don't understand inflation, right? So they look at the markets going up, they open up their 401k statements or their IRA statements, and as long as it doesn't look too bad, or even if it keeps going up, then people are like, wow, this must be okay. Everything just must be dandy. But that's really hiding the true trend, which is the purchasing power. It doesn't matter how many of these you have. 10 trillion Zimbabwe dollars, but I can't buy an egg with it, right? It doesn't matter. Nominal confusion, which is by design, $20 bill 10 years ago and a $20 bill today buys a whole lot different. Today's buys a whole lot less stuff than it did 20 years ago, let alone 50 years ago, let alone 100 years ago. So, I think that's it for...
One more thing I just want to say to habits of mine. I'm so sorry I missed this earlier. It looks like you called into a specialist. Okay, great. We're going to get back to you ASAP. If you do not mind reaching out directly to the person that reached back out to you and just emailing them today, that way we'll know for sure. Because I don't have your information here from the chat, so I can't reach out to you directly, or else I would just call you right now. But yeah, we will get back to you as soon as possible. Basically, they reached out to us and we haven't gone back to them just yet. They just want to know. Any suggestions? We're sorry we haven't gotten back to you yet. We will be.
Yes,
we
call.
Will be very
give
shortly.
me the number.
Absolutely.
So call. You'll probably get Sydney. 833-GLD. Yep, 833. Well, it's 833-GLD ZANG. So 833-345-9264, and you let Sydney know that you reached out to us on the chat, and to get you with a strategy specialist ASAP, and then keep me in the loop, okay? Because we are here to be of service to you. I mean, it is that simple, and we care about you. You're our community, and if you're not happy with something, guess what? I don't know, anybody that's my age remembers what it was like when it was primarily all mom and pop shops. And if somebody wasn't happy with something, they could go to the person that was the decision maker. We are all here to support your efforts and to be of service to you. And I'm not really so worried because I know who we have on our team. They're so strong and they're so committed to being of service. And I'll tell you something that's been really gratifying to me is, even Adam said this to me the other day, so here I'm going to rat you out. But this has been true for so many of the people that are all with Zang Enterprises, and they say that their favorite part of this job is how much they get to help people. It feels really good, and it does.
Absolutely.
I know,
Absolutely.
together we can make a difference, and we are here to support you. So let us know how we're doing. If we're not doing a good job, then we're going to fix that, because our commitment is to be of service to you and to support your efforts, period, end of discussion. And we will do whatever it takes to do that, period. So until next we meet, please be safe out there. And really, thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.